Hello and welcome to Gazzetta Football Korea, your beginner's guide podcast all about South Korean football. I'm your host, Martin Jones. With me today, as ever, Korean football expert Tom Clark. 안녕하세요.
Hi, mate. How are you?
Not too bad, thanks. You?
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Good stuff. This is a beginner's guide podcast, and well, we certainly felt like beginners this week as the midweek round of games we mentioned last pod just failed to materialize. Tom, how do you say "done like a kipper" in Korean?
Yeah, I'm not sure that one exactly translates, but I blame the fixture app that I use for sure. Yeah, it was very annoying, and the stupid app updated halfway through recording last week's pod. So by the time that we'd finished and put this out, we actually found out via one of our helpful listeners on Twitter.
Yeah, shout out to Dan Croydon. Yeah, thanks for the nudge via DM about that. Same with me as well. The websites I use had the incorrect fixtures, if you like. So I guess this is an occupational hazard, you could say, when you're following a sports league on the other side of the world in a different language, or for me at least. So if anything, surprised it hasn't happened sooner. Okay, well, anyway, what have we got for you, listener? Well, if game week 17 was a quiet one, game week 18 most certainly was not. We had 28 goals, the return of a legend, a shock defeat, and a crazy 10-goal thriller down in Daegu. So let's just get straight into it. Okay, let's start on Saturday. No Friday games, so games were nicely staggered out this weekend, which is always good. Makes it easier to watch. Makes it easy to watch them all. So Saturday, 10 a.m. UK time, we had Sangju Sangmu versus Incheon United. Sangju were in third, Incheon were in 12th. Sangju had lost their last two, but Incheon had won their last two. But it was Sangju who came out on top on this one, Tom, with it finishing 3-1.
Yeah, so it looks like the new manager bounce for Incheon is over after back-to-back wins for them, and Sangju getting their form back on track after two straight defeats. And Sangju were on top straight from the off, and they took an early lead as well. It was an easy finish for Oh Hyung-gyu. It was some great old-fashioned wing play from Moon Sung-min. He took his man on the outside. It was a low cross, more of a pass really, to Oh about 8 yards out, and fairly simple finish for Oh. Sangju's second came from a really similar route. Moon turned Kim Yeon-soo brilliantly, and it was great. Kim Yeon-soo just tried to swipe, just tried to take him completely out. He knew he'd been done, thought he'd bring the man down, but he missed, and Moon managed to get away. And then he had chance to look up for a man in the middle. This time his pass was blocked, but the loose ball fell to Oh, who had a shot again. This time his shot was blocked, and the second loose ball fell to Kim Min-hyuk, who made no mistake. It was a bit of luck when a couple of loose balls fall for you like that, but also you've got to have the men in the box for the ball to fall to you. So you say, well done to Incheon for getting the blocks in, but well done to Sangju for having the men in the box to make it count. I thought that would be it. That would be game over. I didn't think Incheon were getting back into it, but then they stepped up their game a little bit after that, and this game was a step up for Incheon compared to Suwon, and it showed. I mean, the first half it was like Sangju had 65% possession, maybe after about 40 minutes, but then for the last few minutes of the half, Incheon got back into it a bit, and it was through Mugosa, and he just put a header narrowly wide. He possibly should have done better with that, but from that goal kick, Incheon turned the ball over straight away, and the Montenegrin, he almost passed it into the corner of the net for about 20 yards out, and you can't say, oh, well, if he'd have got the header, they'd have got 2 goals, because if he'd have got the header, he would never have had the chance to get the second goal, because it came from that goal kick, if you understand what I mean. And then for the final 5 minutes of that half, it was all Incheon. They had all the ball, and Mugusa had another shot, and he was just wide with a really good left-footed effort. And you could just tell they really did not want the half to end. They suddenly got themselves into the game. Half time came, and it just disappeared. And whatever was said by the managers at the halftime break, who knows? But Sangju came out, and within 3 minutes they'd got another goal, and that was kind of at 2-1, I thought Incheon were in it. At 3-1, no, not really. And the third goal was through Jong Jae-hee. And once more, it was Moon who was at the heart of everything. He was driving the defence, a little slide through rule pass to Jong, who shot over the advancing keeper. And yeah, so Moon got a start this week, and two assists and one, what do we call it? A pre-assist, I guess, something like that. Anyway, it was 3 goal involvements. There we go. That's what we'll call it. 3 goal involvements. Really good performance from him. And Incheon were always going to find it hard at 3-1, but they had absolutely no chance of a comeback due to the weather as well. It was just insane. The pitch looked unplayable. You're watching on TV and you can just see standing water, especially in both boxes. And more so, if anything, it was in the box that Incheon were attacking, so Sangju's defensive area. And anytime the ball went in there, it just got held up in puddles, and you can't play any kind of passing game. And all right, I don't think Incheon were getting back into it anyway, but they had no chance in that weather. And if anything, so for the last maybe 20 minutes of the game, so I think it was about the 70th minute mark that this just monsoon rain, like we've never ever seen rain like this in England. It's hard for people who haven't experienced it to understand how heavy it is. You are drenched within 2 seconds of it. And for the last 20 minutes, there was almost no football being played, or decent football anyway. So it led to some good chat on Twitter about all kinds of stuff to do with the weather, but the poor drainage of the pitches, why games in Korea don't get abandoned, or even just a rain delay, because it was okay. The monsoon rains can go on for days and days, but you'd think they'd have a good weather forecast, and this one was for 10-15 minutes. Maybe take the players off 10 minutes, 15 minutes, wait for the rain to stop, then the ground stuff can come on and just sweep away. I've actually got the cricket on in the background, and it's kind of like, the cricket, they can come on, they can sweep away the excess water, and then at least, the pitch is still going to be soaking, but you won't have the standing puddles. Maybe that would make a bit of a difference. Basically, everyone that we were having the chat with on Twitter kind of agreed that the situation was a bit stupid, and it's especially because this happens every year. It's not like this is a one-off, unbelievable rain. No, there is a rainy season. It is this time, or it's through the summer every single year. And it didn't make any difference in this game in the grand scheme of things. But there were some videos flying around of past matches, and it was a shame that became the talking point at the end. But I guess maybe the ref, and the authorities, they just want to get the game done and think, well, there's only 15 minutes to go. We can muddle through.
So loss for Incheon there off the back of their wins. Are we putting the great escape narratives back in the box, do you think?
Probably until they win their next game, yeah.
We've got to have something to talk about, I guess, don't we? So, but yeah, there you go, listener. That game finished Sangju 3, Incheon 1. Sangju stay third, and this is actually only the first time they've scored 3 goals in a game, and Incheon stay 12th.
So while I was watching that game, you then took the next one which came on, which was Suwon versus Busan. And this is Suwon, who are down in 11th, Busan in 7th. But, after Incheon's defeat earlier in the day, Suwon knew that a win would see them re-establish a 6-point gap at the bottom, the gap that they'd lost when they'd been defeated by Incheon earlier in last week. And Busan were coming off a nice win against Pohang as well. So we weren't sure what really to expect from this. We kind of both expected a Busan win, I think, but it was actually Suwon who took it with a 3-1 win.
Yeah, I was quite looking forward to this one because, like you say, we didn't know how it was going to go, and you could see any result happening in this one. But I think this might be the first time I've said it this season, but it really was a game of 2 halves. It's nice to get back an old cliche. And it was an interesting one. First half, Busan's had a very clear game plan: keep their shape, invite Suwon onto them, but then close them down once they got 5-10 yards into their half. And then when a Suwon player had gone down a blind alley or was in a bit of trouble or turning back towards their own goal, then they just upped the level of intensity with the press, and they did that really well in the first half. And Busan looked by far the better drilled team, and they got immediate reward for that, because in 3 minutes they scored. So Suwon midfielder Terry Antonis, who was the pressing victim in midfield, he lost the ball and it got played to Lee Dong-jun, who we've mentioned quite a few times on this pod. down on the left-hand side. Took a first touch. Second touch was an excellent cross, dissecting the two defenders into the path of Lee Jung-hyup, another name we mentioned quite a bit. Slightly awkward looking finish for him because it was slightly under his feet, but he did really well to steer it into the bottom corner, and it was a well executed counter. 3 players, 4 touches, goal, and the manager, the Busan manager Jo Dok-ji, will have been rubbing his hands at that, and that was how it went for the first half. And Suwon's game plan, they just seemed a bit clueless. It just seemed to revolve around kneeing Lee Jung-hyup in the back. And that kind of paid off because Lee went off injured at half-time for Gustavo Vincenzo, so he came on. And Suwon had 69% possession in that first half. But as I said, they just looked a bit clueless, and it looked like Busan who were in charge. Second half, it was a different matter, really. And Busan were dropping off a bit more. And with an hour left, I remember clearly thinking, I was wondering whether Busan would push for a second, and I was thinking they should do. But given what I've seen of Busan this season, I thought they probably wouldn't. They didn't, and they kind of came to regret it, really, because 5 minutes after that, Suwon got the equaliser, and it came out of nothing, really. Real moment of luck for Suwon. It was a square pass from the left. The Busan midfielder slid in to intercept the ball, and he won it, but it ricocheted off a Suwon player into the Busan penalty box. And Kim Min-woo, Suwon midfielder and captain, he found the ball in front of him, accelerated onto it, very composed finish, just to kind of prod it into the corner. And that was the equaliser for 1-1. And then Busan just started looking a bit more ragged after that. And Kim Min-woo, another moment of opportunism about 10 minutes later. I'm not going to let you talk on this one, Tom, because I think you probably said enough on this enough on this topic. It was a well-hit shot from outside the box on the right-hand side by Kim Tae-hwan, the Suwon striker. Had decent pace on it, but it was straight at Choi Pil-soo in the Busan goal. And he went to catch it into his chest, but it bounced out into the middle of the goal. And there was Kim Min-woo to tap in. So, I mean, take nothing away from Kim. It was good anticipation and timing. He could see the shot coming. He stayed on side, and he still needed to have a bit about him to put it in, come finish. But it was a goalkeeping error, I'm afraid, and that made it 2-1.
Yeah,
and then
late for pouncing, but yeah, keeper, eh?
Yeah. So yeah, well done, Kim. Not so good, Choi in goal. And then Suwon just sealed it late on with a goal 6 minutes from time. Yom Ki-hoon, who came on as a sub just before the very first Suwon goal, in fact, actually. So it was almost like as soon as he came on, Suwon scored the goals. But we were kind of in garbage time anyway at that point, as they say in US sports parlance, because there wasn't really too much going on. So yeah, it ended 3-1. As I said, a game of 2 halves, and this will have been frustrating watching, I think, for Busan fans. And it was that kind of 15-minute period from the 60th minute to the 75th minute was just kind of like a microcosm of Busan's season. But by all accounts, they played some really good football last year, really good attacking football to get promoted from K2. And it just seems like they don't know whether to stick or twist, because times I've watched and they've been fairly pragmatic, and they're certainly pragmatic in this game. But when they needed to attack, they didn't, and in the end, it came back to haunt them. And that seems to be the Busan iPark experience in 2020.
Yeah, so a good win for Suwon, a much needed win for Suwon, but disappointing for Busan, as that finished Suwon 3, Busan 1. Suwon stay in 11th, and it is, again, for them, like, it's only the second time that they've scored 3 goals in a league game this season, so they'll be chuffed with that. As for Busan, they dropped down 2 places to 9th. Now, that was it for the Saturday games. It was just the 2 this week, but it meant that there were 4 on Sunday, which for us in England meant a fairly early start to the Sunday morning. And you were keen to get up early doors and watch this one while I had a little bit of a lie-in. So tell me about this one. This was Ulsan versus FC Seoul. Obviously, Ulsan top of the table. Seoul going into this in 6th. Ulsan comfortably the league's most prolific attack. Seoul comfortably the league's leakiest defence. And the game went exactly to that script, didn't it, with a 3-1 win for Ulsan?
Yeah, it was an early start. We had a 7 a.m. wake-up call thanks to a car alarm going off in the neighbourhood. So for the first 2.5 hours this morning, I was just kind of sitting here waiting for the game to begin. But yeah, very comfortable for Ulsan. The main story here was the return of Ki Sang-young to K1 after 11 years in Europe. And for fans of narratives, which I count myself one, it was an interesting game because playing for Ulsan, of course, is Lee Chang-yong, and they were good buddies when they came through at Seoul together. They also played with each other on the national team. And in fact, actually, when I read about this morning, during that 2.5 hours waiting for this game to kick off, when they played together for Seoul, they were known as Double Dragon. I think partly because I think Lee Chung-yong's name translates as dragon or blue dragon, perhaps. I think I remember Yumi saying. So it was the Double Dragon back together again, although on different teams. And then just for a kind of a double whammy on the narrative effect, it was Lee Chang-yong who opened the scoring for Ulsan. Came from a corner, whipped in swinger from the left-hand side. Really nice hit along the 6-yard line. Junior went up for the header and I think it was blocked, but it fell to Lee Chang-yong. Good first touch, turn and shot, goal. 1-0 to Ulsan. And then shortly before half-time, another corner and Junior Negrao put Ulsan 2-0 up. This time in swinger from the left, another good corner, near post flick on. It's one of those where the ball, I'm pretty sure the ball was already going in, but Junior was just following up at the far post, and he scored from, I think, literally an inch out. So another David Nugent style effort. And after Junior's goal, that was pretty much it. And in the second half, there was no way Seoul were going to get back into it. So second half was all just about key watch. And when would he come on? What would he do? Would he score a hat trick? Would he put in a reducer on Lee Chang-yong, his buddy? And in the end, he came on in the 65th minute and didn't do too much. He used his experience to win some fouls and pass the ball around a bit. He did look a bit off the pace, which is fair enough, really. He had a bit of an injury. He had that spell at Mallorca where he wasn't playing much, and obviously we've had the coronavirus break, so it's going to take him time to get back to fitness and get back to match sharpness. And you probably think he's going to be aiming to have an impact from next season because Seoul aren't doing too much this season. But I was looking up his details. He's younger than I thought. He's only 31, so he could still play for another 5 years, and that'll be a nice storyline to have even for the rest of the season, even if he's not playing too much. But in the end, as I said, it did finish 3-0, and Ulsan wrapped it up in stoppage time. Counter-attack goal, and it was Jung Hoon Sung who scored. But yeah, very comfortable win for Ulsan.
Yeah, just going back to Ki, I think everyone's desperate for him to come in and just be this superstar straight away. So he played one nice 50-yard ball, and like within seconds it's clipped up and it's all over Twitter and Instagram and been like, oh, he's amazing. There's like it's one pass. Like it was a pass, but it's probably a pass that most professional footballers on that pitch could have made at some point or another. He was under no pressure. There was, and it's people are just desperate for him. I'm not saying he's not going to be a really good player in the league, and we shouldn't be excited about him joining it. But it's like, wait until he actually does something. Wait until he actually runs a game for 90 minutes and makes a difference to them, rather than just clipping one pass and just being going, wow, isn't this guy, God's gift to football? It's like, chill out. He'll be good. Just wait until he actually does something. But he, obviously he came on, they were 2-0 down. He's not going to be the player who's going to come on. He's not going to score many goals. That's just not his game. That's never been his game. So, he needs to be, like you say, it was a good time to bring him on to get match fitness. That's all. He's not going to come on and make any difference at 2-0 down in that kind of game. He needs to be match fit and controlling the tempo of a game. And you can't do that coming on in the 60th minute, in my opinion anyway, especially when you haven't played in, God knows what, it's probably about a year since he's really had been full fitness playing because of the injury and COVID, or maybe not quite a year, but it's been a long time anyway, hasn't it? But like you say, that was, it was a really comfortable win for Ulsan. It was 3-0. They stay top, of course, and Seoul dropped 2 places down to 8th.
Okay, moving on to the 11 a.m. games, UK time. We had Pohang Steelers versus Songnam FC, the Tom Martin derby. Pohang were in 5th, Songnam were in 9th. No team was on worse form than the Steelers going into this game. The last time these teams met, it finished 4-0 to Pohang. Pohang won again, but not quite as convincingly this time, as it finished 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, Pohang were the better team. It wasn't like the first game of the season when it was the 4-0 win for them. Pohang deserved the win, but Songnam, I think, bar a few minutes of just some suicidal defending, they could have held out for what would have been an undeserved victory, or at least a point maybe, because Songnam took a surprise lead. It was the 21st minutes through Na Song Ho, but as I say, in the end, Pohang fought back, and they were the deserved winners. They were the better team, and they had 4 times the amount of shots that Songnam did, but with Songnam, they do have a decent defensive record. So you think, and they're not brilliant going forward. So being outnumbered with shots, that's not much of a surprise when it comes to Songnam games, really. But I mean, what was a surprise to me was that it was two crosses that did Songnam, and you think that's what they're good at. That's what they're good at defending. And it was Stanislav Ilyutchenko who got both the Pohang goals. The first was from a corner, and the second a cross from open play. Both times he was basically unchallenged, which is a surprise with the Songnam defence. The first was a header, pretty simple for a player of his standard. You don't expect him to have that much space from a corner, but when you do, you expect him to score. The second, he had to stretch. He did very well to get a toe onto the end of it, but there's no way the ball should have reached him. There was a defender in front of him, and I don't know if he ducked out of it a bit or if he just misjudged the flight of the ball, but whatever it was, he got no touch on it, any kind of touch, and it would have, gone over or gone under, Ilyutchenko's foot, because he was really, really at full stretch. Actually, Ilyutchenko had a really good chance for a hat-trick, and it was another cross, and it was another header, and he was totally unmarked, 8 yards out. He'll definitely think should have scored that. He got power behind it, he headed it down, but it was just too close to Kim in goal. It was a fairly decent save, but it's one of those that if it was Alan Shearer analysing this on Match of the Day, he'd just be like, he's got to score. And he has to score. A striker, free header that distance, he has to score that. But doesn't matter. They won 2-1. It was a deserved win for Pohang. Songnam will be kicking themselves not to have defended the set pieces better, because that is their strong suit. But yeah, fair enough. 2-1 win and deserved.
As Tom said, that game finished Pohang 2, Songnam 1. Pohang go up a place to 4th, Steelers back to winning ways, and Songnam drop a place to 9th.
And while that game was going on, at the same time, down in Jeongbuk, we had them facing off against Gangwon. Jeongbuk in 2nd, Gangwon in 8th. Jeongbuk were on a 5-game winning streak. Gangwon are only one of 2 teams to beat Jeongbuk this season, so could they repeat the feat? Well, surprisingly, yes, they could. 2-1.
Yeah, 2-1 to Gangwon. And this was a game that for 75 minutes was pretty boring to watch. We had a ton of goals this weekend, but that 75 minutes was a bit of a slow one. And but on the 76th minute, it was Gangwon who took the lead. Kim Ji-hyun, nice left-footed curled finish from outside the box into the bottom left corner. And that was the first real moment of quality. Gustavo missed a chance in the first half. Ko Mu-yeol kind of had a half chance, but he couldn't quite bring the ball down. But that made it 1-0 to Gangwon, 15 minutes left. And we've spoken about how in K1, we've seen games where teams score late. We've seen games where both teams score late in the same game. And that's what we had here. 88th minute, Han Gyo-won equalised for Jeongbuk. Slight suspicion that Kunimoto's cross from the left-hand side might have just curled out of play, but the assistant referee didn't give it. Ball wound up with Gustavo, who hit a shot, and the defender blocked it. So it's kind of well done to the defender for blocking it, but actually probably would have been better if he'd kind of let the keeper save it, because the keeper probably would have caught it. So the ball came off the block to a defender, and then Han was on hand to tap that in to make it 1-1. And at that point, I was looking at this thinking, right, if anyone's going to go and win this, it's surely going to be Jeongbuk, because we've seen them get late winners. I remember Lars Veldwick getting a late winner early in the season. But it was actually Gangwon who went down the other end, and it was a decent shot across the goal by the Gangwon attacker. Keeper saved it, and then Kim Ji-hyun again on hand to tap in the rebound. So he got his second, and that made it Jeonbuk 1, Gangwon 2, and it was a weirdly eventful end to what was otherwise a really uneventful game. But yeah, I mean, as far as Jeonbuk are concerned, to lose once to Gangwon may be regarded as a misfortune, but to lose twice looks like carelessness. And they can't afford to be careless with Ulsan in such good form.
Yeah, definitely weren't expecting this result as it finished. Yeah, Jeonbuk 1, Gangwon 2. Jeonbuk stay second with 67% of their losses this season coming against the team from Gangwon. And Gangwon finish 8th, their first win in 7 games. So yeah, that really was a shock result, but maybe not as shocking as the next one.
Yeah, the final game of the weekend. I mean, we had K1 cooked up a nice gold cake for us, and if you like to stretch the metaphor a bit, and this really was the icing on the cake. Noon UK time, Daegu FC versus Gwangju FC. Daegu were in 4th, Gwangju were in 10th. And this was a Daegu team that hadn't scored in 3 games. They were playing a Gwangju team who were unbeaten in 4. And Daegu scored 4. They broke their duck, but Gwangju scored 6. And Tom, I told you this Gwangju team, they've got a bit of something about them.
I mean, this was just bonkers. And I think I've got all the goals covered in this, but forgive me if I haven't. There was so much going on. But yeah, this was just a brilliant game. It's just bonkers defending. A lot of fun to watch. A great way to end the weekend of football. Yeah, wow. So, right, where do I start? Well, 10 goals. I can run through them quickly. But honestly, just come watch the highlights rather than listen to me talking about a 10-goal thriller. But yeah, so Daejan opened the scoring. 39-year-old Daejan getting a start. He hasn't had many of them this season. He opened the scoring after just 2 minutes with a decent right-footed effort. Then it was Felipe who got Gwangju back into the game. This is in the 24th minute, so, fairly reasonable start to the game. 2 goals opening 24 minutes. It was a penalty after Onwon Sang was tripped in the box by Kim Woo-seok. And then just a few minutes after this, Gwangju took the lead. A free kick came in. It fell to Willian. He had an effort. It was saved on the line by Gu Song-yeon. But Ashuramatov, I should have practiced how to pronounce that name. I think it's Ashuramatov. He was the quickest to react, and he poked home. So 2-1,
So that's 2-1.
Right. Then Daegu got back level. And it was 2-1 at half time. So, 3 goals in the first half is a lot of goals, but, not out of the ordinary. Daegu got back level, and it was through a Cecilia penalty. And it looked like Daeyan was going to be tapping into an empty net after the ball had rebounded off the bar. But he was bundled off the ball, whether he was tripped or pushed or, whatever. He was on the line. He was going to tap it into the empty goal. And, yeah, easy penalty, no mistake. I don't think it even bothered with VAR, or if it did, it was just in his ears being like, yes, that's a penalty, carry on. Cecilia, no mistake, 2-2. And then it just went crazy from here. This is where it just went crazy. And Gwangju were just attacking in numbers. Daegu were being completely overrun. It was really strange to see how attack after attack, the Daegu defense was just left overwhelmed. It was like, literally, I would go to pick up my cup of tea, or you'd pick up your phone or make notes as we do on these games, or like we message each other during the games. And every time you looked up, it was just suddenly 4 or 5 Gwangju attackers and only 3 defenders. Like, what's going on? Like, what was going on? And to be honest, with 10 goals, you'd think I wouldn't make time to talk about a miss, but I'm still going to talk about a miss because there should have been more goals in this game. And it was Onwon Sang. It was a glorious chance for him. They were, he was completely one-on-one, but how he was one-on-one, because he was one-on-one for about 40 yards out. So it was like how the defense had just disappeared. So anyway, completely free run on goal. Maybe he had too much time to think about it, because it was that old, I think it was like the original MLS style game where the attacker gets to run from 40 yards to take the keeper one-on-one. He could do anything. He was coming in at a nice angle, so he could have shot to the right, to the left. He could have gone through the keeper's legs. He could have gone around him. Any of those options. But what he did was put it wide. It was just bizarre. In the grand scheme of things, it's a 6-4 game. This doesn't matter at all. But just, he's a good player, and he has got improvement to make, though. But he is a good player. But anyway, back to the goals. Within a few minutes of this miss, Willian showed how it should have been done. He actually had defenders to beat as well. So he turned his man on the halfway line and then just had a run, not quite on goal. There were still defenders in front of him, but these defenders just like backed away, backed away, backed away. He runs past them like they're not even there. He actually only had to take one defender on in the end because they all just backed away so much. He takes one defender on, the other one backs off, sticks out a leg, but no, never gonna help. And he cuts it back across himself and across the goalkeeper. And yeah, good goal. William played really well actually. And cool, where are we now? So I can't even remember what scoreline we're talking about now. I think that was 3-1. Yeah, 2 minutes later
3-2.
it was 4-1. And
Or
again, my
3-2.
notes are just like I have no idea what's going on with the Daegu defense, and Gwangju just completely outnumbered them. And it was again Willian running at the defense. This was from the opposite wing. He was coming in from the right wing this time, and he's running on. There's two defenders, but there's 3 or 4 attackers. He's got options right or left. He chose to go left, slid it to Felipe, who actually he steadied himself before taking the shot. He could have taken it first time, but it wasn't a dummy. It was just kind of he took his time, set himself, finished at the near post. But there was a big gap for him to hit. But it was, the near post because he was suddenly on the left-hand side of the goal where the attack had come from the right. So the keepers had to move across, didn't have enough time to get fully across. And then you're thinking, all right, well, 4-1, probably going to finish reasonably comfortable now. But nope, within a couple of minutes, Edgar gets one back for Daegu. It's a long-range effort for Edgar, and that was our 4th goal in 10 minutes and the 3rd in 6 minutes. So it was just every time you turn around to type, it's just something happens. You know what? I'm not going to take any more notes. I'm just going to enjoy the rest of this game. And at the end of the game, I'm going to go back through the highlights and write about anything else that happened. Because there was still 20 minutes to go at this point. And I've actually written, and I sent this to you. It's like, I needed a cup of tea and I need to go to the bathroom, but I just could not leave the room because I knew I was going to miss something. And I was right to hold off on everything because there were still 3 more goals to come. And if anything, it was actually a surprise that there was like a 10-minute break between the next goal. And the next one was one for Gwangju, and it was Lim Min Hyuk, and he had a shot from outside the box. It was perfectly placed, bottom corner. Goalkeeper, no chance with this, but especially there was one really good view of it, and I think it was from behind the goal, and you just see the midfielders not making the effort to catch up with him, and the defenders just backing off, and it's like a training ground exercise where you've got a cone in front of you, and you're just told, okay, when you get to this cone, have a shot, and just bizarre defending. Good finish. And then, God, what was the next goal after this? A minute later, it was Kim Ju-kyung after this, and his one, give him more credit than the defence. A really nice little bit of movement in the box to get in front of his man, and quite a simple finish. But it was all about the movement. All right, we can pick holes in the defence how the cross got there, but credit to him for some good finish. Let's not. I mean, this game was just so bonkers. I don't want to really keep going on and on and on about the defence because the goals were good fun. And you think, surely, 6-3, nothing else is going to happen. No, Daegu got one more back, and it was in injury time. It was a lovely 1-2 between the 2 Brazilians, Cecília and Edgar. Then Cecília holding off a defender. One of them defenders ends up on the floor. Another one he takes on, and a nice finish. And that was 6-4. I think I've covered all the goals. I think I've covered them in the correct order. Yeah, but blimey, totally mad. Shocking defending, a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, apologies if I've missed any goals or I've got them in the wrong order. But yeah, it was just good fun. It was just really good fun. And go and watch the highlights if you haven't already seen them. It was great fun. Defense all over the shop. Midfield completely overrun. They tried to press. When they tried to press, they got overrun. It was just an absolute nightmare. Gwangju's best performance of the season by an absolute mile. They looked devastating in the attack. Thought they could score more than the 6 they did. But they did still concede 4 goals. But yeah, what a game.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. It was just totally like that. And like you mentioned earlier, you just look away for a second or go to the bathroom, and then you could just hear go coming from the other room, and then you just have to rush back in. But yeah, Felipe got a brace, Cecília got a brace, and Willian had a good game. So a good game for Brazilians. Willian, he just seems to get better and better each time I see him. And his goal, I mean, would you say his was the pick of the bunch? I mean, there were a few good goals in this one.
Yeah,
Probably hard to remember them all, to be honest.
yeah, it is hard to remember. I think his goal was very good. I actually probably would say Cecinia's second, right at the end, because it was a nice 1-2. He shrugged off the defender, took another man on, and then finished over the keeper from memory. Williams' one was yeah, turned his man on the halfway line, ran. So yeah, it was a good long run. But I think the defense just made it a bit too easy for him because they backed off. So he actually only had to beat one man. He was coming from the left wing and then he ran across the box. It was kind of bizarre because he almost ran like in parallel to the 18-yard box, past one. Then the other defender doesn't go in and put a tackle in, and it was a good finish. It was a good goal. Take no credit away. I would say Cecinia's second just because he had one man all over him who actually then like got taken off on the stretch. I think he came straight back on, but he was, he shrugged him off and then beat a man. So I think he just had a bit more to do because he had a bit more pressure on him, and the 1-2 was in quite a small, compact area of the pitch. But yeah, William played well. I guess it was. I think the one of the Daegu fans on Twitter said it. It's kind of easy when the defense is this bad.
Yeah, and yeah, Gwangju, that front three, I've definitely mentioned him before, of Felipe, Willian, and Onwon Sang, and they can cause teams problems. But every time I looked up, it just seemed like they were just scything through the Daegu defense. I don't know what was going on with Daegu's defense, and yeah, 10-goal thriller. I mean, I'm not complaining because I think this is the first 10-goal thriller. I mean, we had a super match earlier on in the season, which was 3-3, and that was exciting. Late goals in that, but this was just an absolutely bonkers game to watch, particularly in the second half. And
it really was. Like you can, I mean, it's really easy to pick holes in Daegu's defense for pretty much all 6 of the goals. You can point fingers, and yeah, I mean, okay, I know I've mentioned it a lot while I was talking about the goals, but it's not a complaint. It was a brilliant game. It was bonkers. Yeah, bonkers is the word. It was just crazy, and it was a lot of fun. And I don't know, sometimes you think when it went to 4-1 or 4-2 or whatever it was, like you just, okay, shut up shop and let's not concede anymore. But they didn't. They certainly didn't do that. And I mean, even Gwangju conceding 4 goals, you expect to lose when you concede 4 goals. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun. It really was. I completely neutral when it comes to these two teams. I really don't have a dog in this fight, and it was so much fun. And it was nice of them for the second half to be on its own without overlapping with any other games, because it would have been impossible to be watching this and the second game at the same time.
Yeah, it was such a good game. And I want to mention Felipe as well, the striker for Gwangju, and it was on the K-League United podcast. I think they had a stat that he's the 3rd most fouled player in K1, but he dishes it out as well, because he is a talented player, but he does barrel into defenders and midfielders, and he likes to throw his weight around. And I think at the moment he's probably my most fun player to watch in K1, because there's always something happening around him, and they get the ball to him a lot because he's their talisman up front, and he can score all kinds of goals. As I said, a talented player, and he just makes things happen. He's not a striker like Komu Yol, perhaps a Gangwon, who can just disappear a little bit from games. Felipe always seems to be involved, and if he's not involved attacking, he's back defending and heading away corners and things like that. A real handful of a player, a real fun guy to watch play.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, yeah, he had a good game. He's a big player for them. It was just a fun match. It really was. It's just one of those games that you watch, you just think, this is why I love football.
Yeah, perfect icing on the cake there. Your final score there was Daegu 4, Gwangju 6. 10 goals in this game. That's as many goals as we had in the whole of last weekend. Daegu dropped to 5th. They've only got 1 point from their last 4 games. Gwangju go up 3 places to 7th, and they are now probably in the mix for the 6th place trophy. Very fun weekend there of K1 football. How did we do predicting that mess? Well, probably about average, really. Tom, you got 3, so Mr. Consistent. Yumi got 2. I only got 2 as well, but I'm taking some credit for the Guangzhou result because I said it was going to be a draw. So I thought, yeah, Guangzhou, they're decent. I think they'll get something out of this, but obviously not expecting a 6-4 win. So overall, Tom, you're on 51, Yumi's on 45, and I'm on 46. In terms of the league table, how's that looking? Well, Ulsan now have a 4-point gap over Jeonbuk at the top. Jeonbuk are still 10 points clear of Sangju in third. Sangju have Pohang and Daegu a few points behind them. So even though Jeonbuk have lost, you can't really see any of the 3 teams behind them catching up. So yeah, we've still got a 2-horse race at the top. In terms of the 6th place trophy, Gangwon are the team in possession this week after their shock win over the champions. And below them, we've got Gwangju, Seoul, Busan, Songnam, and Suwon, all within 4 points of Gangwon. So still very bunched up, as it has been all season, really, in the bottom half. And then Incheon, 6 points behind Suwon. In terms of the top scorers, Ulsan's Junior Negrao is now on 21. So he's pretty much got the golden boot sewn up for this season. So he's not fighting against anyone else this season. He's now got his eyes, you would think, on the all-time record, which is currently with Dejan Damjanovic. He got 31 goals back in 2012, and he scored those 31 goals in 41 games. Shortened season this year, so Junior will have a maximum of 27. But, and I did some maths earlier, if he continues his current strike rate, which I think is 1.39, he will beat the record, potentially with a game to go, certainly by the final game of the season. So that would be remarkable if Junior got the all-time record in a shortened season.
Yeah, that would be pretty amazing. I don't think I mean, obviously he'll have the goals to game or goals to minute ratio sewn up by an absolute mile. Whether he can do it in the 27 games, I'm not sure, because you've got to remember the final 5 games should, in theory, be harder as well because you're playing against the top teams. But yeah, we'll see. It's obviously he's got the golden boot sewn up, so it is just a case of how many now.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the other teams in the top half, I mean, I think they beat Sangju comfortably earlier on in the season. Pohang and Daegu can ship a few goals when they want to, and who knows who's going to be in 6th place? Could be anyone. So
yeah, but there'll be a lot more pressure on those last 5 games when Ulsan are going for the league title. We know what happened to them last season, so we know that pressure can get to them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And just thinking back to earlier in the season, we mentioned before how Junior, he's a nice guy. He's quite unselfish for someone so prolific, and he gave Bjorn Johnson a penalty. And remember back to the opening day where he could have scored, but he squared it instead. So I think he needs to get the blinkers down and just go for this. The other players in the top 3 for the Golden Boot race, we've got Pohang's Stanislav Ilyichenko. His brace today, one of a few braces we had actually this weekend, that puts him or keeps him second on 12 goals. And Gwangju's Felipe has 10. Okay, let's move on to game week 19. What games have we got? Well, we've got a game on Friday. We've got Sangju Sangmu at home to Suwon Samsung Blue Wings. Sangju in 3rd, Suwon in 11th. Both teams got back to winning ways this weekend after a couple of losses. Is this going to be Sangju home win?
Yeah, I think so. Suwon were better this weekend, but just in general, Sangju are a better team than them. So yeah, home win for me.
Yeah, I'm going for a home win for the Sangers. Even though Suwon scored 3 goals, I think that was more down to Busan than down to Suwon. So yeah, Sangju for me. Saturday, 9:30 a.m. UK time, Songnam FC versus Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors. Songnam in 10th, Jeonbuk 2nd. Songnam, I was looking at the fixtures, they've got all of the top 5 in consecutive games. Jeonbuk coming off a disappointing loss and a disappointing performance at home to Gangwon. Presumably backing Jeonbuk to bounce back.
Yeah, I am. It's such a tough run for Songnam. Yeah, it's one of those things, the fixture list does its magic and you get that. It's pretty awful for them, and I expect Jeonbuk to have a bit of a reaction to this weekend and back to winning ways.
Yeah, I'm going for Jeonbuk as well. Saturday, 11 a.m., FC Seoul versus Busan I-Park. Seoul in 8th, Busan in 9th. Both lost this weekend. Both conceded 3 goals. So I think it's going to be another game where almost literally anything could happen.
Yeah, so I'm going to go for a draw. I don't know. Not sure with this one. They're two teams that, to be honest, I'm not particularly interested in this season. I don't think they play particularly great football. They've not been involved in that many great games. So I'm going to go for a draw on this one. And I think you'll be watching this one.
Okay, yeah. Thanks very much. I've gone for a draw here. I've even written down 0-0 draw. It just feels like it's going to be a 0-0. Saturday noon, Pohang Steelers versus Daegu. Pohang in 4th, Daegu in 5th. Pohang back to winning ways. Daegu in a bit of a slump. Again, another game where literally anything could happen.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that with pretty much any game in football, Martin. But yes, anything could happen here. This is kind of the opposite to the FC Seoul Busan game for me. This is two teams that are fun to watch, and there's goals at both ends of the pitch. But I don't know. It's a hard one to call this. I mean, after Daegu's disintegration against Gwangju, I guess we can expect a bit of a reaction from them. They're going to have a tough week in training, you'd imagine. But I'm going to go for a Steelers win.
Yeah, I've got my Steelers hoodie on today, so I'm going to go for the Steelers as well. Okay, moving on to Sunday. The early game, 9:30 a.m. Gangwon FC versus Incheon United. Gangwon in 6th, Incheon in 12th. The last time Gangwon played Jeonbuk, they won and followed it up with a win the next game against Incheon. Could we have the same thing happening here again?
Well, literally anything could happen in this, Martin. But it looks firmly like Incheon's new manager bounce is finished. So yeah, back to predicting a loss for them every week. Gangwon win.
Yeah, I'm going for Gangwon. The Gangwon gangsters going for a home win. And the final game of the weekend, Sunday, 11 a.m., Ulsan versus Gwangju. Ulsan, of course, in 1st, Gwangju in 7th. Ulsan in terrific form, but Gwangju showing they're no mugs. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I mean, despite the ridiculous result against Daegu, I can't look past Ulsan extending their winning run here.
Yeah, same here. 2-0 I'm going to go for. Ulsan win.
So for the first time in 19 weeks, we have predicted every single result the same way, which I think means that we need to put £2 on the accumulator.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll go for it. I'll put the money on. I didn't even look at your predictions. I don't think you looked at mine because I think we were just doing them at the same time after the end of that crazy Daegu Gwangju game. So yeah, hopefully we'll have some good games.
Yeah, we know, at least we know that Yumi will be back in at least one different result to us, with always going for Incheon. So at least somebody in our little group is doing something a bit different.
Very good. Well, there we go, listener. A very exciting Game Week 18, and that's our Game Week 18 pod done and dusted. Tom, thank you very much. Kamsahamnida.
Kamsahamnida.
Kamsahamnida to you too, listener. You can stay up to speed with us on social media at Gazzetta Korea on Twitter. We're also on YouTube and we're on Facebook as well. In the meantime, stay subscribed to the podcast and we look forward to catching up with you next weekend for some more K-League action.